Hello everyone. If I am audible, please comment. So we are going to start with the topic Council of Ministers, which is a part of Parliament only. If I am audible, please comment. Okay. No, it is not for UPSC, it is for state services batch. It is for the state services, not for UPSC. Okay. So yesterday we had done, last time we had done till the Prime Minister. Today we will be doing the Union Council of Ministers. So सबसे पहले हम देखेंगे कि यूनियन काउंसिल ऑफ मिनिस्टर्स होता क्या है. यूनियन काउंसिल ऑफ मिनिस्टर्स की प्रोविजन जो है वो दी गई है इन आर्टिकल्स 74 and article 75. These are the two articles in which there is provision for the Council of Ministers. Okay. So as we discussed, there are two executive authorities. One is the real executive authority and one is the nominal executive authority. So nominal authority is that which theoretically has all the powers but is not actually able to do anything, and the nominal executive authority is the President of India. But the real executive authority is the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers. So the Prime Minister and all the ministers combined is the real executive authority at the union level. So we will see who all are included in the Council of Ministers. So just focus here. If this is the Prime Minister of India, then this is the cabinet. This is the Minister of State, and this entire circle is known as the Council of Ministers. What it means is that Council of Ministers is a broad term which includes many types of ministers. Basically there are three types of ministers. First are the union ministers. On the second number come the ministers of state. दूसरे नंबर पे ministers of state आते हैं और तीसरे नंबर पे आते हैं deputy ministers. So the basic difference between these three is, first of all, the senior most are the union ministers. So union ministers वो होते हैं जिनकी ministry बहुत significant या बहुत important होती है. For example, the union ministers are the Minister of External Affairs, or the Minister of Home Affairs, or the Minister of Defence for that matter. All these are the union ministers. Minister of State come at the second number. Minister of State are actually junior ministers who are there to assist the union ministers. So Minister of State again can be of two types. There can be with independent charge, or they can be assisting the union ministers. So they are junior in rank. They do not enjoy the same rank as that of a union minister. And the difference between these three ranks is कि जैसे जैसे ये रैंक कम होता जाएगा वैसे वैसे इनका स्टेटस, इनकी सैलरी और इनके सारे के सारे जो भी पर्क्स एंड बेनिफिट्स हैं वो भी सब कम होते जाएंगे. सबसे निचली जो पोजीशन है वो आती है डेप्यूटी मिनिस्टर्स की. डेप्यूटी मिनिस्टर्स आर जनरली दोज मिनिस्टर्स which do not have any portfolio, but they are there just to see how the other ministers function. So, they are there just to see how the union ministers and ministers of state function, and the main purpose of making deputy ministers is they are basically those MPs who are budding ministers, जो आने वाले time में minister बनने वाले हैं. So, it is just a like of kind of training to those people who can become union ministers and ministers of state in the future. Let us do an example. Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman is the Union Minister of Finance. So, she is the Union Minister of Finance. That means the highest type of designation. In the Finance Ministry, now since Finance Ministry is a very large ministry, so उसी Finance Ministry में एक Minister of State for Finance भी हैं, who is अनुराग ठाकुर. That means Finance Ministry पूरी की पूरी निर्मला सीतारमन जी के अंडर है, but to assist her there is a Minister of State for Finance who is Mr. Anurag Thakur, but he is junior to Ms. Sitharaman. Deputy Minister, we do not have any example for Deputy Minister because the current government has not made any Deputy Minister. So, there are basically these three types of ministers. At the top is the Union Ministers, at the second number is Minister of State और तीसरे नंबर पे आते हैं Deputy Ministers. Union Minister सबसे सीनियर होते हैं और ये किसी एक मिनिस्ट्री को इंडिपेंडेंटली होल्ड करते हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, मिस निर्मला सीतारमन इज द मिनिस्टर ऑफ फाइनेंस, शी इज द यूनियन मिनिस्टर ऑफ फाइनेंस. दूसरे नंबर पे आते हैं मिनिस्टर ऑफ स्टेट. अब यहाँ पे स्टेट का मतलब पंजाब हरियाणा वाली स्टेट से बिल्कुल नहीं है, ये एक टर्मिनोलॉजी है मिनिस्टर ऑफ स्टेट. मिनिस्टर ऑफ स्टेट का मतलब होता है कोई भी ऐसा मिनिस्टर जो किसी यूनियन मिनिस्टर को असिस्ट करने के लिए हो, या अगर इसके पास इंडिपेंडेंट चार्ज भी है तो वो किसी छोटी मिनिस्ट्री का हो. तो कुछ ऐसे मिनिस्टर्स भी हैं हु हैव इंडिपेंडेंट चार्ज ऑफ अ मिनिस्ट्री. सबसे निचले लेवल पे आते हैं डेप्यूटी मिनिस्टर्स. डेप्यूटी मिनिस्टर्स को बनाने का मेन पर्पस होता है ताकि इनको ट्रेन किया जा सके आने वाले टाइम में यूनियन या मिनिस्टर ऑफ स्टेट बनाने के लिए. सो दीज आर द थ्री टाइप्स ऑफ मिनिस्टर्स बेसिकली. एंड एज आई टोल्ड यू अर्लियर, द प्राइम मिनिस्टर is the head of the Union Council of Ministers. So, Prime Minister gets to choose who will become a minister, who will not become a minister. He can change the portfolio of any minister and he can reshuffle the portfolios of any minister. Let us do some provisions of ministers now. This was the classification of ministers. So, I was telling you that if this is the Union Council of Ministers, so this is the Union Council of Ministers. So, within this, this is the Union Ministers, this is the Minister of State and Deputy Ministers, और बिल्कुल सेंटर में आते हैं द प्राइम मिनिस्टर ऑफ इंडिया. सो दिस इज द कॉम्पोजिशन ऑफ द यूनियन काउंसिल ऑफ मिनिस्टर्स. द प्राइम मिनिस्टर इज द हेड ऑफ द यूनियन काउंसिल ऑफ मिनिस्टर्स. उसके बाद सबसे क्लोज सर्कल आता है यूनियन मिनिस्टर्स का, उसके बाद आते हैं मिनिस्टर ऑफ स्टेट और सबसे बाद में आते हैं द डेप्यूटी मिनिस्टर्स. एंड ऑल ऑफ दीज मिनिस्टर्स कलेक्टिवली आर नोन एज द यूनियन काउंसिल ऑफ मिनिस्टर्स. Who appoints them? Who is the appointing authority? They are appointed by the President of India. So, they are chosen by the Prime Minister, but they are appointed by the President. And the President is bound to accept the recommendation of Prime Minister in this regard. The President cannot deny to the Prime Minister to appoint any person as a minister. Then let us do some other provisions of the ministers. The first provision is that they are appointed by the President. The second provision is that the ministers have to be members of parliament. To become a minister, it is necessary that a person has to be a member of parliament. Yes, I will explain what is a cabinet minister. So, they have to be members of parliament. The members of parliament mean they have to be member of either Rajya Sabha or Lok Sabha. They can be a member of either house of parliament. It is not necessary that they have to be a member of some particular house. They can be from any house. So, they can be either from Rajya Sabha or from Lok Sabha. Then even a non-member can become a minister. Even a non-member can become a minister provided that he becomes a member within 6 months from such appointment. A person who is not a member of either Rajya Sabha or Lok Sabha can also become a minister if he becomes a member of that house within 6 months of such appointment. For example, let us take an example. As I told you yesterday, on 30th of May 2019, Mr. Prime Minister Mr. नरेंद्र मोदी उन्होंने अपनी ओथ ली थी और उसी दिन मिस्टर एस जयशंकर was made a minister. He was made the Minister of External Affairs of India. But since he is from a non-political background, he was not a member of either House of Parliament. So, he was a non-member on the day on which he was sworn in. 1 month after that, on 5th of July 2019, he won an election to the Rajya Sabha and became a Rajya Sabha member. So, 1 महीने 1.5 महीने के बाद ही he became the member of parliament. So, now he can continue in the post of minister. That means at the time of becoming a minister, it is not necessary that a person has to be a member of parliament. He can become a member of parliament within 6 months from his appointment as a minister. Next, the oath to the ministers is administered by the President of India. इनको oath दिलाते हैं President of India. If you have any doubt, you can ask me. Okay. So, then another point is that they are collectively responsible to the Lok Sabha. This is the question which is very frequently asked, that the Union Council of Ministers is collectively responsible to. So, the options given are generally Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha, Parliament, Prime Minister. These are the options. So, the Union Council of Ministers is collectively responsible to Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha, Parliament or Prime Minister. So, it cannot be Rajya Sabha. It cannot be the parliament as a whole, because parliament includes both the houses. It cannot be Prime Minister also. It has to be Lok Sabha. Can you tell me in the comment section why it is Lok Sabha? It is Lok Sabha because the no confidence motion can only be held in the Lok Sabha. No confidence motion cannot be held in the Rajya Sabha and it cannot be held in any other place. It has to be held in Lok Sabha. So, all the ministers are collectively responsible to the Lok Sabha, because if the Lok Sabha passes a resolution against the Union Council of Ministers, all of them will have to resign, including the Prime Minister of India. That is why they are collectively responsible to the Lok Sabha. So, this. Yes, yes, you are right. Yes, Rajya Sabha cannot be dissolved, and because Lok Sabha is elected, the main reason is that because the no confidence motion can be held only in the Lok Sabha. That is why. What is the difference between Deputy Minister and Minister of State Independent Charge? See, the difference between these is of rank. Someone has asked me in the comments that was the difference between Minister of State and Deputy Minister. The difference is that of rank. The Minister of State is of a higher rank and the Deputy Minister is of a lower rank in salary, in rank as well as in every other matter. right? So, let us proceed further. So, in this we discussed their collective responsibility. So, let us see they are individually responsible to whom? Collectively they are responsible to the Lok Sabha, individually they are responsible to the President of India. So, theoretically they are individually responsible to the President of India, because the President can remove them at any time. However, the President cannot remove them at his own whims and fancies, he has to remove them only on the recommendation of the Prime Minister of India. They are collectively responsible to the Lok Sabha, because Lok Sabha is the only house that can remove those ministers by passing a no confidence motion. That is why, and they are individually responsible to the President. So, if any minister commits any act which is unbecoming of a minister, so then the minister has to tender his resignation to the President of India. So, they are individually responsible to the President. However, this provision is theoretical in nature. In reality, the ministers are actually responsible to the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister sends the recommendation to remove that minister to the President. So, they are collectively responsible to the Lok Sabha, but they are individually responsible to the President of India. Now, let us see very important point, what is the difference between the Council of Ministers and the Cabinet. Let us see the difference between the Council of Ministers and the Cabinet. So, the Council of Ministers and the Cabinet. Cabinet is a term which is very frequently used. First of all, let us see one point. Is there any limit on the number of Council of Ministers? If there are in Lok Sabha 543 MPs and in Rajya Sabha there are 245 MPs, let us make it to 545 including the Anglo Indians. So, in Lok Sabha there are 545 MPs and in Rajya Sabha there are 245 MPs, which make them 790. So, can all of them be made ministers? Of course, the opposition members will never be made ministers, only the ruling party members can be. Presuming that the current BJP government has around 300 MPs in the Lok Sabha, can all those MPs be made ministers, or is there a limit? There is a limit, and that limit is 15% of the total strength of the house, and this limit was imposed by the 91st constitutional amendment. 91st constitutional amendment. By 91st amendment, there was a limit of 15% imposed on the total strength of the Lok Sabha, which is, so the total strength of the Lok Sabha is 550. 550 is 15%. It comes out to be roughly 82. So, there cannot be more than 82 ministers in the Union Council of Ministers, including all our ministers, including the union ministers, including the ministers of state and the deputy ministers, including the Prime Minister also. So, all the ministers combined cannot be more than 15%. What is interesting is this 15%, although ये 15% निकालने के लिए हमने लोकसभा को एक क्राइटेरिया रखा है, लेकिन इसमें मिनिस्टर वो भी आ जाएंगे जो राज्यसभा के भी होते हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, द एंटायर total ministers of the BJP government can be 82, and those 82 members can be either from Lok Sabha or from Rajya Sabha. So, the combined they have to be 82. It's not like that of Lok Sabha there can be 15% ministers and of Rajya Sabha again there can be 15% ministers. No, of the combined strength of both the houses, the total ministers can be not be more than 82. So, that is the limit. So, what is the difference between Council of Ministers and Cabinet? Number one, Council of Ministers is a broader body. It includes all types of ministers, whereas a Cabinet is a narrower body. It includes only union ministers. This is the first difference. This is the first difference. No, it is not compulsory for the Prime Minister to be only from Lok Sabha. The Prime Minister can be from either House of Parliament. For example, Dr. Manmohan Singh, he was a MP from Rajya Sabha. Dr. Manmohan Singh was a member of Parliament from Rajya Sabha. So, a minister or the Prime Minister can be from either House of Parliament. There is no such foundation. Let us see the other powers. So, Council of Ministers is theoretically powerful. In theory, it is the most powerful body. However, actually the most powerful body is the cabinet. So, practically this is the most powerful body. In short, what is the difference between Council of Ministers and Cabinet? Council of Ministers includes around 70 to 80 ministers, and any important decision cannot be taken with so many people in the council. That is why there is a narrower body carved out of the Council of Ministers, which is known as the Cabinet, and that Cabinet includes the Prime Minister, and it can include 10, 15 or 20 odd ministers, which are the most important ministers according to the Prime Minister's wish, and only those ministers constitute the Cabinet. So, for example, if in the Council of Ministers there are a total of 60 ministers, the Cabinet will have not more than 15 to 20 ministers. However, there is no definite limit on this number कि कैबिनेट की स्ट्रेंथ कितनी हो सकती है, इसके ऊपर कोई भी कहीं भी कोई लिमिटेशन नहीं लिखी हुई है. इट टोटली डिपेंड्स ऑन द विश ऑफ द प्राइम मिनिस्टर ऑफ इंडिया. A cabinet can be of 5 ministers, a cabinet can be of 15, 20, 50 ministers. There is no such limit. The cabinet is actually a shorter form of Council of Ministers, so that all the ministers will not have to sit together and only a few important ministers can take all the decisions. What is a kitchen cabinet? So, kitchen cabinet is an informal cabinet. Kitchen cabinet means that cabinet includes only the ministers and prime minister, but kitchen cabinet includes some informal persons who are not ministers. It has happened in the past in a few instances where someone who was not a minister was playing a role in the administration of the country by influencing the prime minister. So, this term got popular at the time of Ms. Indira Gandhi as the prime minister. So, at that time her son was a very significant influence on the entire union decision making. So, at that time this term came into picture. So, kitchen cabinet is actually a derogatory term which shows that some people from the outside legislature are playing a role in making the policies for the country. Then another difference between the cabinet and the Union Council of Ministers is that the Union Council of Ministers does not have any collective functions, whereas cabinet has many collective functions. So, all the major decisions of the government are actually taken by the cabinet, not by the Council of Ministers. At present there are around 58 members in the cabinet, 58 to 60 members are there in the cabinet, but the limit is of 82. That means the cabinet can be expanded further. What is MOC? You are commenting. What is MOC? So, any doubt you have in this? If you have any doubt in this, you can ask. Cabinet is a temporary body. Both cabinet as well as Council of Ministers are temporary bodies. No body is permanent here. They are temporary bodies. Any minister can be expelled from the cabinet. Any new minister can become a part of the cabinet. It shows on the wishes of the Prime Minister itself. For example, if a particular Prime Minister gives importance to, say, infrastructure sector, he will include the Minister of Road Transport and Highways, the Minister of Shipping, the Minister of Railways into the cabinet. Whereas another minister who gives more importance to, say, science and technology, he will make the Science and Technology Minister as the cabinet minister. So, totally depends on him, his whims and wishes. Kitchen cabinet is an informal cabinet. Kitchen cabinet is an informal cabinet where a person, one or more than two persons who are not a member of legislature or are not ministers, they play a role in running the government. That is known as kitchen cabinet. For example, in the last government, when Mr. Dr. Manmohan Singh was the Prime Minister, so at that time Ms. Sonia Gandhi and Mr. Rahul Gandhi, it was alleged that they are actually running the government. So it was called a kitchen cabinet because neither of them enjoyed any ministerial office, neither Ms. Sonia Gandhi nor Mr. Rahul Gandhi, none of them were any ministers in the union government, but still it was alleged that they exercise a lot of power in the union cabinet, and as a virtue of that it was known as a kitchen cabinet. But this is a derogatory term and it should not be used in the formal context. Yes, the cabinet minister also resigns to the president. All types of ministers, they send their resignation to the president, they are administered oath by the president, and all of them are selected by the prime minister. So let us do the next topic. Do we have kitchen cabinet now? It cannot be said actually. There is no such thing as a formal kitchen cabinet. It is always an allegation that the government is running a kitchen cabinet. If there is any person who is not an MP or not a minister, especially is not a minister, and that person is playing role in the cabinet meetings, only then it is called to be a kitchen cabinet. Only then it can be called that some informal persons are actually taking the decisions on the behalf of the cabinet. Only then we can call it a kitchen cabinet. Then there are cabinet committees. Cabinet committees are actually the committees within the cabinet itself. For example, the cabinet committees can be of two types. They can be standing committees and they can be ad hoc committees. These are the two types of cabinet committees. The standing committees are of permanent nature and the ad hoc, as the name suggests, are of temporary nature. स्टैंडिंग कमिटीज जो है वो परमानेंट नेचर की होती हैं. अब कैबिनेट कमिटीज बनाने का क्या पर्पस है? कैबिनेट कमिटीज बनाने का पर्पस ये है कि एक डिफरेंट टाइप का फंक्शन एक कैबिनेट कमिटी हैंडल करती है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, let us take an example of a permanent committee of cabinet. Say the cabinet committee on economic affairs. So this is a cabinet committee which includes the ministers of union cabinet which take decision pertaining to the economic policy of the country. Similarly, there is a cabinet committee on political affairs, then there is a cabinet committee on security, then there is a cabinet committee on appointments which decides all the important appointments of the country. So even out of the cabinet, अब देखिए सबसे पहले हमने काउंसिल ऑफ मिनिस्टर्स किया था. काउंसिल ऑफ मिनिस्टर्स इज द बिगर बॉडी. आउट ऑफ दैट उससे हमने छोटी बॉडी निकाली कैबिनेट. अब कैबिनेट में से भी हमने फर्दर छोटी छोटी कमिटीज बना ली हैं विच इंक्लूड 5 to 6 मिनिस्टर्स विच आर ऑफ द कैबिनेट रैंक. So they take decisions pertaining to some important topics, like there is a particular committee which takes decisions regarding the economic affairs, political affairs, security and appointments. So these are permanent in nature. On the other hand, we can have ad hoc committees. For example, the emergency committee was there once, which is for a particular purpose. If say if there is a war going on, so there will be a cabinet committee to see that particular topic, or if there is a very big natural calamity, to handle that there will be a cabinet committee. To whom does an MP who is not a minister submits his or her resignation? We are going to do the topic of parliament today, but to answer your question, the MP submits resignation to the presiding officer of the house of which he is a member. For example, if a Lok Sabha MP has to resign, he will submit resignation to the Speaker of Lok Sabha, and if a Rajya Sabha MP has to resign, he will submit resignation to the Chairman of Rajya Sabha. So, the presiding officer is the one to whom an MP submits a resignation, and the President is the one to whom the minister submits his resignation. So, this is the clear differentiation. So, all these, whether it is the cabinet or it is the council of ministers or it is the cabinet committee, all these are devices for administrative convenience. Just because all the members together cannot take any decision, so a smaller council is carved out of a larger body which can take all these decisions, and that is why all these mechanisms have been made, whether it is cabinet or cabinet committee. Just because those 80-70 odd members cannot take all the decisions because it is a very large body, so we have carved out a smaller body out of that, which includes maybe 10, 15 or 20 members, and they are responsible for taking all the decisions. So, let us see some provisions of the Parliament of India. What all comes under the Parliament of India? Number 1 is the President of India. So, President is an integral part of Parliament. Second comes the Rajya Sabha, which is the upper house of Parliament. Then third comes the Lok Sabha, which is the lower house of Parliament. So, these are the three components of the Indian Parliament. These three together become the Parliament of India. You have to remember that very properly, that only these two houses do not form the Parliament. President is also an integral part of Parliament. You usually get this question that which among the following is not an integral part of Parliament. So, in this you will get these three options, and the fourth option can be anything else. For example, it can be the Speaker of Lok Sabha, the Vice President of India. So, you might think that they are also members of one or the other house, but the President is the integral part of Parliament. All the ministers are also either a member of Rajya Sabha or Lok Sabha, so they are also included. The Vice President is the chairman of Rajya Sabha, so he is also automatically included. The Prime Minister is also either a member of Rajya Sabha or Lok Sabha, so he is also automatically included. The Speaker of Lok Sabha is also a member of Lok Sabha, so he is also automatically included. But President of India is neither a member of Rajya Sabha nor a member of Lok Sabha, nor he is a presiding officer of any house. That is why President is a separate entity, and he is actually the head of Parliament. So, he along with Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha constitute the Parliament of India. So, first of all we will see from where have we adopted this particular system. हमने ये parliamentary system कहाँ से adopt किया है? Can you tell me in the comment section from which country we have adopted the parliamentary system of government? Yes. Can you tell me in the comment section? Yes, Council of Ministers includes not all MPs of ruling party, some MPs of ruling party. All MPs do not become the ministers, some MPs become ministers. So, yes, we have taken this system from Britain. The parliamentary system has been taken from Britain, and our Rajya Sabha is a copy of the Britain's upper house, which is the House of Lords, and the lower house is a copy of the House of Commons. So, these are the two houses of the British Parliament, and these two houses have been copied in India as Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha. So, Rajya Sabha is known as the, in English it is known as the Council of States in India, Council of States, and Lok Sabha is known as the House of the People, House of the People. So, now let us see the composition of these houses. First of all, let us see the composition of Rajya Sabha. So, the total strength of Rajya Sabha is supposed to be 250. So, it is maximum strength is capped at 250. So, out of this there are elected members, then there are nominated members. So, we will see how many are they. So, 238 members are elected from states as well as UTs, and 12 members are nominated members, and these 12 members are from 4 fields. They are from art, science, literature and social service. So, 238 members are actually elected from the states and union territories, and 12 members are nominated from the field of art, science, literature and social service, and they are nominated by the President of India. As we discussed in the topic of President, that these 12 members are actually nominated by the President of India. So, in total the maximum strength of the Rajya Sabha can be 250. However, at present it is operating at a strength of 245. So, the 5 seats are actually vacant. To accommodate any further adoption of a new state or the creation of a new state or a new union territory with legislature, so these 5 seats are kept vacant. Right. Then, as far as states are concerned, all the states are represented in the Rajya Sabha. All the states are represented in the Rajya Sabha, and this list is given in schedule. Can you tell me in the comment section in which schedule is the list of states which are represented in the Rajya Sabha is given? The allocation of seats to the Rajya Sabha, yes, it is given in schedule 4. In this particular schedule it is written that for every state how many seats are there in the Rajya Sabha. For example, for Punjab there are 7 seats in the Rajya Sabha. Similarly, all the states combined, yes, Madhu, you are answering correct. So, 4th schedule is the schedule in which this list is mentioned. As far as union territories are concerned, there are until now only 2 union territories which are represented in the Rajya Sabha. One is Delhi and another is Puducherry. However, very soon Jammu and Kashmir will also be represented in the Rajya Sabha, because to get representation in the Rajya Sabha, a legislative assembly is mandatory. Legislative assembly is mandatory to be represented in the Rajya Sabha, and these are the only 3 union territories which have a legislative assembly. So, these 2 are already represented, but now Jammu and Kashmir will also be represented in the Lok Sabha. Then let us see the composition of Lok Sabha. So, in Lok Sabha the maximum permissible strength is 552. Out of this, elected members cannot be more than 550 and the nominated members cannot be more than 2, and those 2 members are from the Anglo-Indian community. But as I told you, these 2 Anglo-Indian members, their representation or their reservation is not permanent in nature. It was being extended after every 10 years, and by 104th Constitutional Amendment Act, which was passed in January 2020, just 2 months back, this extension has been cancelled. So, now the Anglo-Indian members are no longer represented in the Lok Sabha. That means the effective strength is brought down to 550. So, there is no nominated member in the Lok Sabha anymore. There are only elected members in the Lok Sabha, and out of those members, 530 members represent the states and 13 members represent the UTs. However, this number is set to change. We cannot say with surety what this number will be, because Jammu and Kashmir is no longer a state and two new UTs have been created. So, we do not know for sure what that number is. We need to see the notification of the government for that particular input. But in total, the strength of the Lok Sabha is 550, which includes UTs as well as all the states. One difference between the composition of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha is that in Rajya Sabha all the states are represented, but as far as UTs is concerned, only 3 UTs are represented. But when we talk about Lok Sabha, all the states as well as all the UTs are represented. So, in Lok Sabha there is not even a single UT or not even a single state which is left unrepresented. So, all the states and union territories are represented in the Lok Sabha. Then let us see some common points for Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. First of all, the most important point is that there is reservation provision. There is reservation for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes in both Rajya Sabha as well as Lok Sabha, but this is a temporary phenomenon and it is being extended after every 10 years. Just like I told you, recently it has been extended by the 104th Constitutional Amendment Act. So, it has been recently extended by the 104th Constitutional Amendment Act. Then let us see the duration of the houses. This is Lok Sabha and this is Rajya Sabha. Let us see the difference as far as duration is concerned. So, the duration of Lok Sabha is a maximum of 5 years. This is the duration of the Lok Sabha. This is the duration of the Lok Sabha. Yes, what is your question? I am not understanding. Okay, so let us proceed further. The maximum length of Lok Sabha can be 5 years. However, yes, the reservation in Rajya Sabha is also the same. In Rajya Sabha also there is a reservation for scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, and in Lok Sabha also there is a reservation for scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. In both the houses it is there. Can duration of Lok Sabha be extended? Yes, it can be extended by way of national emergency, but that we will do when we will discuss the topic of emergency, but for sure it can be extended. It was extended once in the year 1976. So, in 1971 the elections were held to the Lok Sabha. So, logically its term should have ended by the year 1976, because 5 years would have been completed. However, the Lok Sabha extended till 1977, because at that time national emergency was in place, and owing to that national emergency the term of Lok Sabha was extended by 1 year. So, yes, it is possible. The duration of Lok Sabha is 5 years and this provision is mentioned in the Constitution of India. However, the duration of Rajya Sabha is not mentioned in the Constitution of India. Very interestingly, it is not mentioned in the Constitution of India, and it was provided as separately in the Representation of People Act 1951. So, it was provided in the Representation of People's Act 1951. So, the duration of Rajya Sabha is actually indefinite, because there is no tenure of Rajya Sabha. The duration of Rajya Sabha is indefinite, but the duration of the members of Rajya Sabha, now there is a difference. The duration of Rajya Sabha is indefinite, but the duration of the members of Rajya Sabha is 6 years. Also, 1/3 of the members retire after every 2 years. This provision has been made so as to give a sense of continuity to the Parliament of India, so that 1/3 members retire after every 2 years and there is continuity in the House. Then let us see who all are qualified to become the members of the Parliament. The qualifications to become the member of Parliament are a lot many. The first qualification is that in case of a Lok Sabha, a person has to be 25 years of age, and in case of Rajya Sabha, a person has to be 30 years of age. So, in case of Lok Sabha, person has to be minimum 25 years of age, and for Rajya Sabha, person has to be a minimum of 30 years of age. And as we discussed earlier, for the office of President as well as that of Vice President, the minimum age bar is 35 years. So, these are the 3 age groups that you have to remember: 25 for Lok Sabha, 30 for Rajya Sabha, and 35 for both President as well as Vice President. Okay, let me ask you a question which you have to answer in the comment section. What is the minimum possible, or what is the minimum age to become the Prime Minister of India? Minimum age to become the Prime Minister of India. Yes, please tell me in the comment section, what is the minimum age to become the Prime Minister of India? So, the answer is, it depends of which house the Prime Minister is a member. It depends of which house the Prime Minister is a member. If he is a member of Lok Sabha, then his minimum age has to be 25, but if he is a member of Rajya Sabha, then his minimum age has to be 30. This is the answer. It depends of which house he is a member, but presuming that he can be a member of either house, yes, 25 is the right answer. So, if you get this question that what is the minimum age to become the Prime Minister of India, and the answer, one of the options is 25, so you have to go with that answer, that it is 25 years. However, if one of the options is that it depends on the house of which he is a member, then that is the correct option, because if he is a member of Lok Sabha, then 25 is the minimum age. If he is a member of Rajya Sabha, then 30 is the minimum age. Other than the age limit, to become a member of Parliament, a person has to be a citizen of India. He has to be a citizen of India. Right? Then he has to take an oath before the certified authority, and then any other qualification that may be prescribed by the Parliament. So, there can be any other qualification as well which can be prescribed by the Parliament from time to time, which he has to adhere to. So, this is simply the criteria to become a member of Parliament. Let us see some of the disqualifications which can make a person ineligible to become the member of Parliament. There are various disqualifications. For example, if a person is found guilty in a particular case, if a person is found guilty or is convicted in a criminal case where the punishment is 2 years or more, then that person is disqualified from becoming a member of Parliament. Now, many of the students ask that criminal cases are going on, or criminal cases are instituted against so many members of Parliament. So, how come they become members of Parliament even when so many cases are going on against them? So, the answer to that is that all those cases are in the trial stage. All those cases are allegations, they are not convictions. Conviction means when a court of law has actually found you guilty and has pronounced punishment against you. Only in that case can a person be disqualified, and not merely on the basis of allegations, because allegations can be unsubstantiated. Allegations can be concocted. Allegations can be a plot to make a person ineligible to fight an election. So, until and unless that case is proved or the person is convicted, he cannot be held ineligible to contest the election of a member of parliament. Then some other disqualifications include, if he holds any office of profit, then that person is disqualified to become a member of parliament. He should not have any other interest, any other material interest in government contracts, works or services, then also the person is disqualified. Right? The most important disqualification that I want to discuss with you is disqualification on the basis of defection. Now, let us see what is defection. Disqualification on the basis of defection. Parliamentary privileges, we will do parliamentary privileges, we are not skipping anything, we will do parliamentary privileges. Right. So, disqualification on the ground of defection. Now, what is defection? Defection simply means when a member of parliament wins an election on a particular party's ticket, but later on changes his party. For example, there is a person who has won an election on the ticket of party A. So, he is now a member of parliament from party A, but later on after winning he joins party B. That means now this person has defied the confidence of this particular party, because people had voted for him believing that he will represent party A in the house. However, now that person has switched his side to the party B. So, this person will be disqualified on the grounds of defection. So, this is the first ground of defection. So, if a person changes his party, so change of party can be one ground of defection. The second ground can be going against the party line, going against the party line or whip. Now, what this means is that if the party has issued any formal notice to all its members to do or not to do something, and any of the members do not follow that particular order, then the party can disqualify them from the post of a MP. For example, if a vote is to be held on a particular bill in a particular house, say a vote has to be held on a particular law in Lok Sabha. So, the BJP as well as Congress will issue whip or a formal order to their party members to either vote yes or to vote no in favor or against that particular bill. And if any of the MP does not obey the orders of the party or does not obey the whip of the party, then that person is eligible to be disqualified on the ground of defection. No, civil cases are not considered for disqualification, because in civil cases a person cannot be imprisoned for more than 2 years. In civil cases the imprisonment is of a very small nature, it is either for a few days or a few months, it is never in years, and the punishment is mostly in the form of fines and not in the form of jail term. So, civil cases are not considered for this purpose. Yes, an MP who is elected as an independent can join the government or party in power, but there is a time limit on that, which we will discuss shortly. Now, people cannot escape from defection. One has to justify it on a case by case basis. For example, just 2 days back Mr. Jyotiraditya Scindia has shifted his party from Congress to BJP. Now, a lot of factors are there. It is not so simple that whether he will be disqualified or not. There are a lot of factors that have to be seen. All those MLAs who were along with Mr. Jyotiraditya Scindia, it has to be seen whether it falls under a particular criteria or not. We will discuss in detail the anti-defection law also. Duration of members of Rajya Sabha is 6 years. I told you the duration of Rajya Sabha is indefinite, but the duration of members of Rajya Sabha is 6 years. Yes, any other question you want to ask, you can ask. Yes, Karnataka is a prominent example. What happened in Karnataka 2-3 months back, 4 months back was a classic example. We will discuss that. So, as far as the cases of disqualification on the ground of defection are concerned, only on the ground of defection, those cases which have to be disqualified, it is decided by the presiding officer of that particular house. It is to be decided by the presiding officer of that particular house. For example, if a Lok Sabha member has to be disqualified on the basis of defection, then the speaker will decide on the disqualification of that particular MP. And if a Rajya Sabha member has to be disqualified on the ground of defection, then the chairman of Rajya Sabha will decide. So, this is the settled law. However, any MP so disqualified has the option of going against the order of the presiding officer to the Supreme Court of India. Say an MP is disqualified from the Lok Sabha for defection, that MP can appeal against the order of speaker in the Supreme Court of India. Similarly, the Rajya Sabha member who is disqualified on the ground of defection can also appeal against such decision to the Supreme Court of India. So, this is the rule. Right. So, let us move forward. Also, this defection provision, where is it mentioned? It was not originally there in the Constitution of India, because the constitution makers had not foreseen any situation where people will so frequently change parties. They had not anticipated such a situation, so they had not included any such provision in the first go. However, this provision was included by the 52nd Constitutional Amendment. This provision was included by the 52nd Constitutional Amendment, and it added the 10th schedule to the Constitution of India. As we did in the class a few days back, 10th schedule of the Constitution deals with the anti-defection law. Yes, you are answering it correctly. So, 10th schedule is the one in which the provisions for anti-defection are mentioned. Then there are certain situations under which a person has to vacate his seat in a particular house. Let us see what those situations are. So, when a member or when an MP has to vacate his or her seat, when does such a situation arise? When a member of parliament has to leave his or her seat in the house. In case of double membership, a person has to leave a seat. For example, there is a rule that one person can contest from 2 Lok Sabha seats. That is, it is not mandatory that one person has to file nomination only from 1 Lok Sabha seat during the election. He can file his nomination from 2 different Lok Sabha seats. As Mr. Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi did in the 2014 elections, he fought from 2 different places, and then he won both the places, and then he kept one. So, he fought from a seat in Gujarat as well and one seat from Varanasi in Uttar Pradesh. So, he won both the seats, and later on he resigned from the Gujarat Lok Sabha seat and retained the Varanasi Lok Sabha seat. So, that means one person can contest from 2 different seats. That is one thing. So, one person can contest 2 seats. This is one thing, but not more than 2 seats. Only a maximum of 2 seats can be contested by one person. But what would happen if the person wins both the seats? Of course, he cannot keep both the seats. So, he has to resign from either of the seats. But what happens if a person does not resign from one of the seats? See, in that scenario, both the seats go. If a person does not choose, both the seats go. So, the provision is that if a person is elected to both the houses of Lok Sabha, if a person is elected to both the houses in the Lok Sabha, he has to choose one seat which he wants to keep, otherwise both the seats will become vacant. So, this is one rule. The second rule is that if a person gets elected to both the houses of Lok Sabha, both the houses of parliament, I am sorry, if a person gets elected to both the houses, say he is a member of Rajya Sabha and he also gets elected to the Lok Sabha, or vice versa, say he is a member of Lok Sabha and he fights the election to the seat of Rajya Sabha and he wins. So, for a few hours or a few days he is a member of both the houses of parliament, but he has to resign either of the seat. Let us see what happens in case he does not resign the seat. So, if he is elected to both the houses of parliament, he has to intimate within 10 days, his choice has to be intimated. Within 10 days, he has to tell which seat he wants to keep and which seat he wants to resign. In case he does not convey that, then his seat in the Rajya Sabha will become vacant. His seat in the Rajya Sabha will become vacant. See why this provision has been done, why not his Lok Sabha seat is taken? Because to conduct a Rajya Sabha election is relatively easier than to conduct a Lok Sabha election. Also, Lok Sabha election is done by direct voting. So, lakhs of voters have to exercise their franchise in a Lok Sabha election. On the other hand, in a Rajya Sabha election, only the members of legislative assembly of a particular state have to vote, which is easier to conduct, and also it is not directly by the people. So, in that particular logic, the seat of Rajya Sabha is vacated and the seat of Lok Sabha is retained, right. Then another provision of members of parliament, to whom do they resign? If an MP has to resign, as you asked earlier in one of the comments, if an MP has to resign, if the member is from Lok Sabha, he will resign to the speaker, and if the MP is of Rajya Sabha, he or she will resign to the chairman of Rajya Sabha. So, this is a settled rule that of whichever house the person is a member, the resignation can be handed over to the presiding officer of that particular house only. Another reason due to which an MP has to vacate his seat is the absence. So, if an MP remains absent for 60 days, 60 working days from the parliament, then that MP is liable to vacate his or her particular seat. Then who administers oaths to the members of parliament? President. Generally the president does not do that because there are hundreds of MPs. So, generally the president or any person appointed by him in that behalf, or any person appointed by president for that particular duty. We will do in the shortly, we will do in some time who that person is. So, any doubt if you have, you can ask in the comment section. What if the member wins both state election and a center election? So, yes, this is an interesting question. I actually skipped this particular question. So, if a person gets elected to both state legislature, say if a person becomes an MLA as well as an MP. So, in this case, what happens? Yes, I will also explain the absence of 60 days. So, in case a person gets elected to both as an MLA and as an MP, his seat in the parliament becomes vacant and he will remain an MLA. So, if a person is an MLA as well as MP both and he does not resign either of his seat in the parliament will automatically become vacant. This is the rule. Absence of 60 days, see there are 3 sessions of parliament usually. There is a monsoon session, then there is a winter session, and then there is a budget session. So, in these sessions the house sits for 15, 20, 30 days, and if a member of parliament remains absent for 60 working days consecutively, then that person has to vacate his or her seat because of absence. right. So, these are the provisions of members of parliament. Let us now move further. Let us now discuss the presiding officer of the house. Now, this is an important topic. So, in presiding officers of the house, we will see who all preside over the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. So, as far as Lok Sabha is concerned, we will talk about the speaker, the deputy speaker, the pro tem speaker, and the panel of speakers. As far as Rajya Sabha is concerned, we will discuss about the chairman, the deputy chairman, and the panel of chairpersons. So, these are all that we are going to discuss. So, first of all is the Speaker of Lok Sabha. The Speaker of Lok Sabha. So, Speaker is the presiding officer of the House. And Mr. Om Birla is the incumbent on this particular office. Mr. Om Birla is the Speaker of Lok Sabha at this particular point of time. What are the necessary conditions for becoming a speaker? He has to be a member of Lok Sabha. So, this is very important. A non-member cannot become a speaker. Also, a Lok Sabha member cannot become a speaker. Only a member of Lok Sabha can become a speaker. A member of Rajya Sabha cannot become a speaker. A member of Rajya Sabha cannot become a speaker. Only a member of Lok Sabha can. This is a very important point I want you to remember. So, as far as a minister is concerned, a minister can be a member of either Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, but for becoming the Speaker of Lok Sabha, a person has to be a member of Lok Sabha. Who administers oath to the Speaker? Who administers oath to the Speaker? Can you tell me in the comment section? Who administers oath to the Speaker of Lok Sabha? No one administers oath to the Speaker of Lok Sabha because he does not have any oath at all. He subscribes to only that oath which he subscribes as a member of Parliament of Lok Sabha. There is no separate oath for the Speaker of Lok Sabha. This is very important. Generally, one tends to confuse it, but you have to remember that for Speaker there is no separate oath. There is the same oath that he will take as a member of Lok Sabha. Yes, the Speaker is not administered any oath. He takes only that oath which is given to every other member of Lok Sabha. There is no separate oath. If he has to resign his office, to whom does he resign? He resigns to the Deputy Speaker of Lok Sabha. This again is important because generally the confusing options are there. You can be asked to whom does he resign, and the options can be the President of India, the Vice President of India, then it can be the Prime Minister of India or the Deputy Speaker. So, the answer is the Deputy Speaker. It is the Deputy Speaker to whom he resigns and not to the President of India. Then what are his primary functions? What are the primary functions of a Speaker of Lok Sabha? The most important function of a Speaker is that he has to preside over the House, and while presiding over the House, he has to take care of all the proceedings that are going on in the House. He decides the agenda of the House. He has to decide which all bills are to be introduced in the particular House. he has to decide which bill is to be taken up for voting, which bill is not to be taken up for voting, and he also gives permission to the members to speak on the house. He also can expel any member from the house if the member creates any physical or emotional violence in the house, as we have seen in the past few days. So, if you are regular with the newspapers, you would have noticed that last week Speaker Mr. Om Birla had suspended 7 members of parliament. He had suspended 7 members of parliament. That means the speaker is also empowered to take disciplinary actions against the members if they are not acting in an order in the house. Yes, very importantly, speaker is concerned with introducing the money bill in the house. Now, when we were doing the topic of President of India, at that time we had done that money bill is one such bill which requires the prior recommendation of the president before being introduced in the Lok Sabha. But in reality, the same power of president is actually handed over to the Speaker of Lok Sabha. That means it is the speaker who certifies whether a bill is a money bill or not. So, speaker certifies whether a bill is a money bill or not, and if he certifies that it is a money bill, then it can only be introduced in the Lok Sabha. However, if the speaker certifies that the bill is not a money bill, then it can be introduced in either house of Lok Sabha. So, the rule is that a money bill has to be necessarily introduced only in the Lok Sabha, after that it goes to the Rajya Sabha. But as far as any other bill is concerned, whether it is a constitutional amendment bill or an ordinary bill, all those bills can be introduced in either house of parliament. So, yes, regarding money bill, this is his important function. Another important function of speaker is regarding the defection law. So, speaker is the authority who takes decisions on the defection of speaker is the authority who takes decisions regarding the defection of the members. So, whether a person is to be disqualified on the ground of defection or not, it is to be decided by the Speaker of Lok Sabha. So, defection is the another important aspect on which the speaker takes decisions. Also, he can adjourn the house. Is it completely discretion of the speaker which bill will be considered as money bill? Yes, it is the discretion of the speaker. It has been held in various cases of the Supreme Court as well that speaker is in complete discretion as far as it is to be decided whether a bill is a money bill or not. However, if someone wants to challenge that decision, then that decision can be challenged in the Supreme Court of India. It happened in the case of Aadhaar bill actually. The Aadhaar Act that was passed by the parliament, it was passed as a money bill, but some MPs said that the Aadhaar Act is not actually a money bill. So, they challenged this particular provision in the Supreme Court of India. The Supreme Court held that the decision of the speaker was fine, but the Supreme Court could also overturn that particular decision. So, it is totally a discretion of the speaker, but of course, it can be challenged in the Supreme Court under the principle of judicial review. Also, another important function of speaker is regarding the joint sitting of parliament. Regarding the joint sitting of parliament. So, whenever a joint sitting of parliament takes place, it is the speaker who gets to preside over that particular meeting. Let us see. Now, this is very important. So, whenever there is a joint sitting of both the houses of parliament, the first right is to the Speaker of Lok Sabha to preside over that particular meeting. However, in case the Speaker of Lok Sabha is not there, then the Deputy Speaker of Lok Sabha will preside over the meeting. In case the Deputy Speaker of Lok Sabha is also not present, then the third right is of the Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha. This is very important, you should keep in mind. It is not the Chairman of Rajya Sabha. The chairman of Rajya Sabha is the Vice President of India, and the Vice President of India can never preside on the joint sitting of Parliament. The reason is that out of all these 4 presiding officers of both the houses, the chairman of Rajya Sabha is the only person who is not a member of Parliament. So, since he is not a member of Parliament, he cannot preside over the joint sitting as well. So, this is a very important thing that you have to remember. Can a speaker be from opposition? Usually it does not happen. The government always wants its own person to be in such a commanding position. Earlier there was a time just after independence when any person either from the government or from the opposition was being made minister also, Lok Sabha speakers also, but now that convention is no longer there, and now only the ruling party gets to decide who will become a speaker, and usually they choose their own party member to become a speaker of Lok Sabha. First session of every new government comes under joint session or joint sitting. No, it is not necessary that the first sitting has to be a joint sitting. It is not necessary. What is necessary is that the president has to address the joint sitting of both the houses after every general election and on the first session of every new year. So, it is not a joint sitting as such. Joint sitting is only called in case there is a deadlock over an ordinary bill. Only then a joint sitting can be called. What happens to speaker when the Lok Sabha is dissolved? Even after the dissolution of Lok Sabha, the office of the speaker of Lok Sabha remains until the next house is put in place. So, until that day an emergency session of even the dissolved Lok Sabha can be called sometime. Even if the Lok Sabha is dissolved, the situation may come to a point where a emergency session of the Lok Sabha has to be called. So, in that scenario the same speaker continues to be the speaker of Lok Sabha until the next Lok Sabha is elected. Joint session and joint sitting actually is the same thing, there is no difference as such. Joint session is actually not a thing, it is a joint sitting only. Yielding the floor a power of the speaker. Yes, a speaker can give permission to anyone to speak or not to speak. So, it definitely is the power of the speaker. The speaker can permit anyone to speak, or he can also deny the permission to anyone to speak. So, yielding the floor of course is a power of the speaker. Now, let us see how a speaker is elected. How is a speaker elected actually? A speaker is elected by vote in the Lok Sabha. A speaker is elected by vote in the Lok Sabha. However, usually this vote does not happen, because whichever party has majority in the Lok Sabha, the leader of that particular party, who is usually the Prime Minister of India, gets to choose the speaker. So, generally the election or the voting for the post of speaker never takes place. It is the Prime Minister who chooses who will become the speaker of the Lok Sabha. Powers of the speaker we have just discussed: the power to preside over the house, the power to maintain the proceedings of the house, the power to take disciplinary action against the members of the house, powers to decide on the disqualification, power to decide on whether a bill is a money bill or not, power to preside over the joint sitting of Parliament. So, all these are the powers of a speaker, right? Then this is the election procedure, and if we want to remove the speaker, then it has to be done by a majority of Lok Sabha. It has to be done by a majority of Lok Sabha, and such majority has to be absolute majority. Now, we know what an absolute majority is. Absolute majority means the majority of the total strength of Lok Sabha, and the total strength of Lok Sabha is 545. So, 545 divided by 2 plus 1, this comes out to be around 273 or 272. So, this is the absolute majority. If the speaker has to be removed, the vote has to be passed by this particular number, and the resolution has to be supported by at least 50 members of the Lok Sabha. At least 50 MPs have to support that particular motion. Only then the motion can be taken up, and once the motion is taken up, then it has to be passed by the absolute majority in the Lok Sabha, only then the speaker can be removed. What it means is that the Rajya Sabha does not play any role in removal of the speaker. The Rajya Sabha does not play any role in the removal of speaker. 50 members initiate the motion, absolute majority of members passes the motion, and after that the speaker is removed from his particular post. Right? Then let us see some of the privileges of the office of speaker, that the privileges that the speaker enjoy. Yes, of course, a speaker of a previous Lok Sabha can be elected as an MP in the next Lok Sabha. Of course, he can be elected. For example, Ms. Sumitra Mahajan was the speaker of the last Lok Sabha. She can very well contest the elections of this Lok Sabha, and she may choose not to become a speaker. She can simply be an MP. That is perfectly all right. The office of speaker is somewhat like the office of a minister. It is an office over and above that of a member of parliament. However, the difference between speaker and minister is that minister is a part of the government, whereas speaker is not considered a part of the government. That means a speaker is considered to be a politically neutral person. That means a speaker is expected to conduct the proceedings of the house without favoring or without undue advantage or disadvantage to any of the parties. For example, Mr. Om Birla is expected to act in a neutral manner. He cannot favor the BJP or vice versa. He cannot actually go against the Congress as well. He cannot go against the BJP as well. So he has, since he is presiding over the entire house and not only the BJP members, so he is expected to be a politically neutral person. This is very important. A speaker is expected to be politically neutral, and of course he can contest the elections any number of times, and also there is no bar on becoming a speaker. A person can become a speaker any number of times. There is no such bar. Then some of the powers let us discuss. He enjoys the powers of a cabinet minister. Now the powers of a cabinet minister means he enjoys the rank and privileges, the house, the salary, the allowances, the status, all of that which are enjoyed by a union cabinet minister are enjoyed by the speaker of Lok Sabha. So this is very important. Similarly, when a bill is under consideration of the house, when a bill is under consideration of the house and there is voting on that particular bill, the speaker cannot vote. The speaker cannot vote in the first instance. See, say a particular bill is before the house and voting is to be held on the particular bill. The speaker will only preside over the house, but he will not vote himself because he is presiding over the house. That means that is the first instance. What can be the second instance? If there is a tie in case of a vote. For example, if there are 400 MPs present in the house that particular day, when the vote is to be held, 200 MPs say yes for the bill and 200 MPs vote no for the bill, and the bill is to be passed by a simple majority. That means we need 201 votes for it to pass. We need more than half of the votes to pass that particular bill. So in case of a tie, the speaker has a casting vote. He has a casting vote in case of a tie. So this is very important. When the speaker is presiding over the house, he cannot vote, but in case of a tie, he has a casting vote. So this is a very important provision. So till now we have done the President of India, the Vice President of India, the Prime Minister, the Cabinet Ministers, the Ministers of State and the Deputy Ministers. This is what we have done till now. Can you tell me, in this particular hierarchy from top to the bottom, where does the Speaker of Lok Sabha fit? Can you tell me seniority wise, where does the speaker fit in this particular order of precedence? Yes, the speaker fits here below the prime minister but above the cabinet minister. So, this is the status of the speaker. That means that the speaker is subordinate to the prime minister, but he is considered superior to a cabinet minister. That shows the importance that we have given to the office of the Speaker of Lok Sabha. So, it is a very significant office. Let us now discuss the office of Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker. So, Deputy Speaker is subordinate to the Deputy Speaker is elected after the Speaker is elected. Yes, after the Speaker is elected, the Deputy Speaker is elected. His only function is to fill in the shoes of Speaker. That means whenever the Speaker is absent or the Speaker vacates his particular office, then the Deputy Speaker presides over the proceedings of the Lok Sabha. And the moment the Deputy Speaker presides over the Lok Sabha, he enjoys all the same powers, privileges and functions as are enjoyed by the Speaker of Lok Sabha. For example, he gets to control the proceedings of the House, he can decide on the disqualification, he can allow any member to speak or not to speak. Then if a bill is introduced in the House when the Deputy Speaker is presiding, he cannot vote in the first instance, then in the second instance he has a casting vote. So, all that is there. What is important is, some important provisions are, first, he also has to be a member of Lok Sabha. This is very important. He also has to be a member of Lok Sabha necessarily. Secondly, his office is not subordinate to the office of Speaker. His office is not subordinate to the office of Speaker. His office is equivalent in rank to the office of Speaker. The only difference is that if Speaker is absent, only then his role comes into picture. The Speaker of Lok Sabha is directly responsible to Rajya Sabha? No, I did not understand the question. What are you asking? Kindly clarify. So, some other important functions of Deputy Speaker. In the absence of Speaker, in the absence or in case there is vacancy in the post of Speaker, he presides over the Lok Sabha, number one. Then he also presides over the joint sitting, as we discussed. He also presides over the joint sitting. Yes, if a Deputy Speaker is voting in the absence of Speaker, he or she can only have a casting vote and not a regular vote. If the Speaker is presiding over the House, the Deputy Speaker is like any other member of Parliament. The Deputy Speaker is like any other member of Parliament or any other member of Lok Sabha. So, say a bill is introduced in the House when the Speaker is presiding over the House, then the Speaker cannot vote in the first instance, but the Deputy Speaker can vote. However, the Speaker can vote only in case of a tie. Now, reverse this situation, the Speaker is absent, Speaker is not there in the House, now the Deputy Speaker is presiding over the House. So, by virtue of presiding over the House, the Deputy Speaker assumes all the duties or all the powers of the Speaker. That means now the deputy speaker cannot vote in the first instance. Now the deputy speaker can have a casting vote in case of a tie. So their roles are actually switched. So deputy speaker, whenever he is presiding over the house as a speaker, he gets all the duties, powers, responsibilities and everything that we have discussed in speaker. So there is no difference whether the speaker is presiding over the house or the deputy speaker is presiding over the house, they enjoy absolutely same powers. Right? There is only one privilege that the deputy speaker particularly enjoys over the other members of Lok Sabha. There is only one special privilege that the deputy speaker enjoys. So before telling you that, let me tell you something. What is a parliamentary committee? What is a parliamentary committee? So parliamentary committee is a committee of members of parliament to discuss a particular issue for a particular period of time. So that is a parliamentary committee. For example, a parliamentary committee can be only of Lok Sabha, it can be only of Rajya Sabha, or it can be a joint parliamentary committee as well, which includes members of parliament from both Lok Sabha as well as Rajya Sabha. And some MP has to be appointed as the chairman of this parliamentary committee. Now, who appoints this chairman? The speaker appoints this chairman. The thing is that if the deputy speaker becomes a member of this parliamentary committee, any parliamentary committee, there can be a number of parliamentary committees. If the deputy speaker becomes a member of any of this parliamentary committee, then he automatically becomes the chairman of this particular parliamentary committee, since he is considered senior to all other MPs of the Lok Sabha. Now in this context, the speaker is the senior most in the Lok Sabha, number 1. On second number comes the deputy speaker, and below him, number 3, comes all the members of Lok Sabha. So this is the order. So if any cabinet committee, if any parliamentary committee is made, and that parliamentary committee includes, of course it includes some MPs of Lok Sabha, but if it includes deputy speaker, then deputy speaker automatically becomes the chairman of that parliamentary committee. However, if that same committee also includes the speaker, then of course the speaker will become the chairman of that committee, because speaker is senior to the deputy speaker as well. So that is the main difference, right? Yes. So who administers oath to the deputy speaker of Lok Sabha? You have to tell me in the comment section, who administers oath to the deputy speaker of Lok Sabha? Yes. What do you want me to repeat? I just explained that this is the order of precedence in the Lok Sabha. Speaker enjoys the highest position, second is enjoyed by the deputy speaker, and after that comes all the members of parliament of Lok Sabha. So if any parliamentary committee is to be made in the Lok Sabha and speaker or deputy speaker is a member of that particular parliamentary committee, then of course one of them become the chairman of that parliamentary committee, all other MPs are just the members of that parliamentary committee. So deputy speaker does not subscribe to any oath, just like speaker. The answer is not speaker, the answer is no one. So one of you have answered correctly. The answer is no one. The deputy speaker also does not prescribe to or subscribe to any oath. So you have to remember that the speaker and deputy speaker of Lok Sabha do not subscribe to any specific oath. The only oath that subscribe to are when they become the members of parliament in the Lok Sabha. That is the only oath that they subscribe to. Next we have to do is the speaker pro tem. The speaker pro tem. So who is the speaker pro tem? Who is a speaker pro tem? See, a new Lok Sabha has been elected. A new Lok Sabha has been elected in which 543 newly elected members are sitting. This is a huge hall in which all the 543 newly elected members of Lok Sabha are sitting. Right? So, none of them gets to sit to preside over the house. So, we need at least someone to start the proceedings of the house, and that person is the speaker pro tem. Speaker pro tem means the temporary speaker. It simply means a temporary speaker who usually is there for 3 to 4 days generally. That is the speaker pro tem. And who is appointed the speaker pro tem? As a convention, the senior most member of parliament, the senior most member of parliament is appointed as the speaker pro tem. So, the speaker pro tem has two important functions to perform. Number one, he has to subscribe oath to all the new MPs of Lok Sabha. This is his first duty. He has to subscribe oath to all the new members of parliament of the Lok Sabha. This is his first function. The second function of pro tem speaker is that he has to conduct the election of the Lok Sabha speaker. He has to conduct the election for the Lok Sabha speaker. So, who is the speaker pro tem? When after the new elections of Lok Sabha, one person has to be appointed as the temporary speaker of Lok Sabha who can do two functions. First function is subscribing oath to all the new members of Lok Sabha, and second is to conduct election of the Lok Sabha speaker. These are the two functions which are performed by speaker pro tem. Now, one interesting and very important aspect here is that since he himself is a new member, how can he subscribe oath to all the members when he himself has not subscribed any oath? That means we need someone to subscribe oath to speaker pro tem so that he can subscribe oath to other members. So, who subscribes oath to the pro tem speaker? The answer is yes. Can you tell me in the comment section who gives oath to the speaker pro tem? Speaker pro tem administers oath to all the new MPs, but who administers oath to the speaker pro tem? No, speaker cannot do that because speaker is not yet elected to the house. So, who administers oath to the speaker? Yes, the President of India. The President of India. The President of India administers oath to the speaker pro tem, and then the speaker pro tem becomes authorized to administer oath to all the other members of Lok Sabha, right? Then comes the office of the chairman of Rajya Sabha. So, the office of the speaker pro tem remains in function for not more than 3 to 4 days. That is the only sphere of function of the office of speaker pro tem. Then comes the chairman of Rajya Sabha. The chairman of Rajya Sabha. Now, we have already discussed the office of the Vice President of India. So, we will not discuss the aspects related to the office of Vice President of India. We will only discuss those aspects of the office that are important from the point of view of the chairman of Rajya Sabha. So, we know that the Vice President of India is the ex officio chairman of Rajya Sabha. That means because he is the Vice President of India, that is why he gets to become the chairman of Rajya Sabha as well. So, in context of understanding the office of chairman of Rajya Sabha, now we know how he is elected. How is the chairman of Rajya Sabha elected? We have seen the office of the procedure for election of the Vice President of India. Can a pro tem speaker be elected as a speaker of Lok Sabha? Of course he can be. That totally depends on the wish of the Prime Minister of India. That totally depends on the wish of the Prime Minister of India. If he wants that the pro tem speaker itself should become Speaker of India, then Speaker of Lok Sabha, then he can of course do that. So, to understand this particularly, let us see the comparison between the Speaker of Lok Sabha, and the Chairman of Rajya Sabha. That would give you clarity about how these two offices are different. So, if we compare the office of the Speaker of Lok Sabha or the Chairman of Rajya Sabha, then we can see that what differences are there. Number one, the Speaker of Lok Sabha gets to preside over the joint sitting. The Speaker of Lok Sabha gets to preside over the joint sitting. The Chairman of Rajya Sabha does not. The Chairman of Rajya Sabha cannot preside over the joint sitting of the Parliament. Number two, the Speaker of Lok Sabha is a member of Lok Sabha. The Speaker of Lok Sabha is a member of Lok Sabha, but he is not a member of either House of Parliament. Vice President of India is neither a member of Lok Sabha nor a member of Rajya Sabha. As far as their powers are concerned, there is one other major difference. The Speaker of Lok Sabha has specific powers with regard to the money bill. The Speaker gets to choose whether a bill is a money bill or not, and if he certifies that a bill is a money bill, then it has to be introduced only and only in the Lok Sabha, whereas the Chairman of Rajya Sabha does not have this power. The Chairman of Rajya Sabha cannot decide whether a bill is a money bill or not. So, these are the three major differences. Speaker presides over the joint sitting, Vice President cannot, or rather Chairman of Rajya Sabha cannot. The Speaker of Lok Sabha is a member of Lok Sabha. The Chairman of Rajya Sabha is not a member of either House of Parliament. The Speaker of Lok Sabha has specific powers with regard to money bill. The Chairman of Rajya Sabha does not. So, these are the differences. If we see the similarities, between two offices, so these are the differences. Now, let us see the similarities. So, what all similarities are there? For example, defection, disqualification. So, if any member of Lok Sabha is to be disqualified on the ground of defection, that decision has to be taken by the Speaker of Lok Sabha. Similarly, if a member of Rajya Sabha has to be disqualified on the ground of defection, that decision has to be taken by the Chairman of Rajya Sabha. So, in this context, their powers are equal. Then secondly, all other powers as far as presiding over the House are concerned, they are the same. For example, when the Chairman is presiding over the House, he can conduct the proceedings of the House, he can give any member the permission to speak in the House, and the voting rights are also same. So, if the Chairman of Rajya Sabha is presiding over the Rajya Sabha, he cannot vote in the first instance when a bill comes up for voting, but if there is a tie, then he can cast a vote, that too only in case of a tie. So, all those provisions are same as far as the Chairman of Rajya Sabha and the Speaker of Lok Sabha are concerned. There is one important topic that we want to discuss as far as the offices or presiding officers of Parliament are concerned, and that topic is that when yes, the procedure, it is not actually called impeachment of Speaker, it is called the removal of Speaker. So, yes, the procedure for removal of Speaker is written in the Lok Sabha, in the Constitution of India, it is written there. So, removal, if we talk about removal of presiding officers of Parliament, there is one important provision. You know, you have to pay very careful attention here. We discussed that when a bill is introduced in the House and the Speaker is presiding over the House, so in the first instance he cannot vote, but in case of a tie he can vote. So this is under usual circumstances. However, when a resolution for removal of Speaker, is under consideration of the House, so can we allow Speaker to preside over the House when a resolution to remove the Speaker itself is under the consideration of the House? It cannot be allowed, because the Speaker will never allow that. We are trying to remove the Speaker. How can the Speaker preside over the House? That means the Speaker does not preside in that case. In that case, the Deputy Speaker presides. Now, in this particular case, the Speaker is not presiding over the House, so the Speaker is like any other member of Parliament of the House. That means now he can vote in the first instance. So when the voting will be held, he will vote in the first instance. However, in case of a tie, he cannot vote. So the situation actually reverses. This is very important, and this is applicable in all other cases as well. So a Speaker under usual circumstances, when he is presiding over the House, he cannot vote in the first instance, but he can vote only in case of a tie. However, when a bill to remove himself is under the consideration of the House, he cannot preside over the House. In that case, the Deputy Speaker presides over the House, and the Speaker is like any other member of Parliament. Therefore, if he is like any other member of Parliament, he will vote in the first instance. He will obviously vote against him, he will vote in favor of himself, but in case of a tie, he cannot vote because he has already voted. Now, in this case of a tie, the Deputy Speaker will have a casting vote, because Deputy Speaker is presiding over the House. So the casting vote is with the Deputy Speaker and not with the Speaker. This is a very important point that you have to understand. Right? So do you have any doubt now? You were asking me doubts. Okay. So then the next office is the Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha. Okay, one question I want to ask you, who is the Deputy Speaker of Lok Sabha at present? Who is the Deputy Speaker of Lok Sabha right now? Can you tell me? Yes. Who is the Deputy Speaker of Lok Sabha? No one. The answer is no one. The government has not appointed any person as the Deputy Speaker of Lok Sabha yet. The elections were held in May 2019, and it has been more than 8 months, 9 months, but no person has been appointed as the Deputy Speaker of Lok Sabha. Yes, so no one has been occupying this post. This post is lying vacant, right? So let us now do the Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha. The Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha. Who is the Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha? Mr. Harivansh Narayan Singh. Harivansh Narayan Singh is the Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha. So Deputy Chairman is subordinate to the Chairman, and he presides over the House in the absence of Chairman. So, he is subordinate to the chairman and he presides over the house in the absence of the chairman. Right. So, his election is also by voting in the house and his removal is also by the house itself. So, very simply he is elected by the house by voting by a majority of all the members. So, if he is to be elected, he has to be elected by a majority of all the members. Majority of all the members means absolute majority is required if we want to appoint the deputy chairman of Rajya Sabha. And if he is to be removed, then also it has to be by the same majority. So, the Rajya Sabha simply elects the deputy chairman and also removes the deputy chairman. Now, let us do the panel of chairpersons or speakers of Lok Sabha. First is the panel of chairperson or speaker of Lok Sabha. So, the panel of speakers of Lok Sabha. Now, see, it cannot be so that the house does not have any presiding officer. If the speaker is absent, the deputy speaker is always there to fill in the shoes of the speaker, but as we just discussed, there is no deputy speaker in the house as such. Until now, the Modi government has not appointed any person as the deputy speaker. That means, if the speaker is absent, we need someone to preside over the house. For that particular purpose, a panel of speakers of Lok Sabha is nominated by the speaker of Lok Sabha himself. It is nominated by the Lok Sabha speaker himself, by the Lok Sabha speaker himself. Right. So, this panel can have 10 to 15 members of Lok Sabha who will preside over the house in case the speaker is, now very importantly pay attention, absent. The word used is absent. Now, there is a difference between absence and vacancy. So, there is a panel of speakers of Lok Sabha. In case the speaker is absent and the deputy speaker is also absent, there is a panel of 10 to 15 Lok Sabha members. So, there is a list which is maintained that if the speaker is also absent on a particular day and the deputy speaker is also absent on a particular day, then out of these 10 to 15 MPs, anyone will preside over the house, because the proceedings cannot be stopped because of absence of one or two members. So, this is a list. So, anyone from that list can preside over the house, and this list is maintained or nominated by the speaker himself. So, the speaker has maintained a list of 10 to 15 MPs who will preside in his or her absence. The word used is absence, which is for a temporary period of time, which is for a temporary period of time. However, in case of a vacancy, in case of a vacancy, now these two words are worlds apart as far as procedure is concerned. So, if the speaker is absent, he is sick or he has not been able to come to the house on that particular day, then anyone from these 10 to 15 MPs will preside over the house, because it is a temporary phenomenon. It can also happen that the speaker is not present in the house for 10 minutes or 1 hour or 2 hours. In such absence also, one of these presides over the house, or 1 day or 2 days or 3 days, that is fine. But if a vacancy occurs in the office of speaker, vacancy means the speaker has either died or resigned or he has been removed. That means in that particular case, none of these can preside. In that case, the president gets to choose who will become the presiding officer of the house. The president gets to choose who will become the speaker of the Lok Sabha. Right. So, you have to keep in mind that in case of absence the panel comes into picture, but in case of vacancy in the office of speaker, the president gets to choose who will preside over the house, and the president may choose someone out of this or may choose any other person also. Any other person means he has to be a member of Lok Sabha, of course. So there is a difference when we say that the office is vacant or the office is absent. You have to keep in mind this particular distinction. Similarly, just like this, there is a panel of vice chairpersons of Rajya Sabha as well for the same purpose. There is a panel of vice chairpersons of Rajya Sabha. So if the chairman is absent and the deputy chairman is also absent, a list of a panel is maintained by the chairman of Rajya Sabha, which includes around 10 members. So in the absence of both chairman and deputy chairman, any of them can preside over the house. This is the provision. Similarly, this panel also works in case of the absence of chairman and deputy chairman. If the office falls vacant, then the president will decide who will preside over the house. So you have to see, you have to be very careful as far as the difference between absence and vacancy is concerned. You have to be very careful. So have you understood the difference between absence and vacancy? Absence is when the chairman or deputy chairman are absent for say a few minutes or a few hours or a few days, but they will definitely come back. So that is the case of absence. In case of absence, anyone of this panel, anyone out of this panel can preside over the Rajya Sabha, and this list is maintained by the chairman of Rajya Sabha himself. So that is fine. But if the office of chairman and deputy chairman fall vacant, now vacancy occurs only in 3 cases: due to death, resignation or removal. So if the offices of the chairman and deputy chairman of Rajya Sabha have fallen vacant due to death, resignation or removal, in that case the president gets to choose who will preside over the Rajya Sabha, and then this panel is of no use at all. Then the president will get to choose who will preside over the Rajya Sabha, right? So these were the presiding officers of the Lok Sabha as well as the Rajya Sabha. These were the presiding officers. So then let us do the difference between prorogation. What is the difference between to prorogue the house and to adjourn the house? This is an important distinction. You need to know what is the difference between if a house is adjourned or a house is prorogued. So first of all, let's see, when a house is adjourned, only the sitting of the house gets terminated. The sitting of the house gets terminated. That means, say today a session is under the consideration of the house. Today a sitting is being there. So sitting is for one particular day, a session is for say 1 month or 2 months. So, sitting is for one particular day. So, if a sitting is terminated, it is adjourned. You must have generally heard that the house is adjourned for the day. That means the sitting is held on that very particular day, and for that particular day it is adjourned. Whereas, prorogation is of a sitting as well as a session. So, the entire session is prorogued. Now, session here means, just like I told you, it could be a budget session, it could be winter session, or it could be monsoon session. So, when the entire session is terminated, then it is known as prorogation, right. Another difference is that the adjournment is done by the presiding officer of the house. So, who has the authority to prorogue the house? In case of Lok Sabha, the speaker has the authority, or if the deputy speaker is presiding in that case, and in case of Rajya Sabha, the chairman has the authority, or if the deputy chairman is presiding, then the deputy chairman has the authority. However, to prorogue the session of parliament, only the President of India has the authority to do that. So, say a session has to be brought to an end, the budget session has to be brought to an end, it can be done only by the President of India. These are the two major differences between the prorogation and adjournment of the house. Then, what is the quorum of the house? Quorum is a term which is used. So, quorum simply means the minimum number of members which are required to be present in the house for the house to function, and the quorum is 10% of the total strength of the house. For example, the total strength of Lok Sabha is 550. So, for the house to function, at least 55 members should be present on a particular day. Similarly, the Rajya Sabha's total strength is 250, and for the house to function, at least 25 members should be present in the house. So, 10% is the quorum. This is very important for you to remember. Then let us do some important provisions of the parliament or parliamentary devices, but in brief. For example, what is a question hour? What is a question hour? You just need to know in brief. So, question hour is the first hour of the session of parliamentary sitting. So, every day when the parliament sits for the first time, the first hour is the question hour, in which the questions of importance are raised and they are answered by the government. What is the meaning of motion of thanks? Motion of thanks is generally passed when the President addresses the joint sitting of Parliament. So, the President addresses it twice, once after the general elections and once after every new year. So, the first session in every new year is addressed by the President, and first session after every general election is also addressed by the President. And to thank the President, a motion of thanks is passed by the House. That is known as a motion of thanks. It is always against the, it is always not against, it is always in response to the address of the President. That is the motion of thanks. So, in question hour, questions are asked. Importantly, the questions can be starred questions, they can be unstarred questions. The major difference between these two questions is that the starred questions are the oral questions and the unstarred questions are the written questions. That means the questions to which an oral answer is sought, they are known as starred questions, and the answers to which the questions to which a written answer is expected, it is a unstarred question. So, this is a very important thing. So, starred questions require oral answers and unstarred questions require written answers from the minister in the house. Another important device of parliamentary control is 0 hour. So, what is a 0 hour? 0 hour is an informal mechanism. Basically, it is a parliamentary innovation. That means, if a member has not given any prior notice for any particular issue to be discussed in the house, in this particular 0 hour, that issue can be taken up. So, you generally get this question, that what is the duration of 0 hour? What is the duration of 0 hour of parliament? Yes, can you tell me? What is the duration of 0 hour? See, the name 0 suggests that there is no specified time limit on the 0 hour. Now, hour does not mean that it has to be for 1 hour. It can stretch way beyond 1 hour, or it can take place for say 4 to 5 minutes only. So, the duration is not specified anywhere, because it is an informal mechanism and there is no such set limit as well. So, 0 hour is a parliamentary Indian innovation in which the member of parliament can raise any issue of importance without giving any prior notice. Then there are different types of motions. So, motion is any resolution which seeks to attain any particular objective. So, you want to do something, you move a motion in the house, right. So, if you want to do discussion on any matter of public importance, if an MP wants to do discussion on any matter of importance, then he moves a motion. So, there are different types of motions. So, the first motion is the substantive motion. Substantive motion is the one which contains the material objective of the topic that has to be discussed. For example, the Citizenship Amendment Act was an issue much in news. So, if an MP from say Congress wants to discuss that issue, he will move a substantive motion in the House. So, when the substantive motion is admitted by the speaker, then there will be discussion on this particular topic, and then the entire opposition as well as the government will have to answer the questions and the discussion will follow. Then there is substitute motion. It means that whatever motion was moved earlier, that is a substantive motion, it has to be substituted by some other motion. Then a substitute motion is issued to the House. Now, this motion will then override this particular motion. This can also be done. Then there is subsidiary motion. Now, subsidiary motion means that whatever was being discussed under either the substantive motion or substitute motion, something additional has to be discussed. So, it is a subsidiary actually. It is it carries some additional information or additional points for discussion, that is the subsidiary motion. This can also be moved. Then there is closure motion. Now, closure motion, as the name suggests, means if the members of parliament wants to cut short a discussion and wants to close the discussion on a particular topic, then the closure motion is moved. So, all these motions are the devices of parliamentary control. One very important motion is the adjournment motion. Adjournment motion means, as we discussed, adjournment means when a sitting of the House has to be temporarily terminated. So, adjournment motion means that an MP wants to discuss such important topic that the entire sitting of the parliament or the House has to be adjourned. So, it is to draw the attention of the House to a particular topic which is of a very grave public importance. Only then an adjournment motion is moved. But for an adjournment motion to be moved, at least 50 members of the House should agree. This is a rule. Even if it is moved in Rajya Sabha or even if it is moved in Lok Sabha, it requires the support of at least 50 members, only then this motion can be moved. This is a rule of adjournment motion of Parliament, right. Then another very important motion is the no confidence motion. Now, as I told you earlier, no confidence motion is that motion. Every point of time, at every point of time in the Lok Sabha, the government has to maintain its confidence or its majority. This we have discussed already, that if the total length of Lok Sabha, if the total strength of Lok Sabha is 543, the government needs to have at least 272 seats in order to run the government. The Prime Minister can only enjoy the confidence of the House if at least 272 MPs pose confidence in him. So, if the opposition thinks that the government does not have this number 272, then it can move a no confidence motion in the House. After that, voting takes place if the Lok Sabha Speaker admits it, and after that, if the government is not able to garner 272 votes, the Prime Minister and all the other ministers have to resign. This is the rule. So, no confidence motion is a device through which the government is accountable to the Lok Sabha. See, yesterday, a day before yesterday, we discussed in the class that the Prime Minister and his entire government is collectively responsible to the Lok Sabha, and the Prime Minister remains Prime Minister as long as he enjoys majority in the Lok Sabha. So, if he does not enjoy majority in the Lok Sabha, then by introducing a no confidence motion, he can be simply removed from the government. Then the Prime Minister as well as all his ministers will have to resign. Right. Then let us see some types of bills which are important here. There are various types of bills, just like we discussed money bill. Let us see some other types of bills and what are the major differences between them. So, we will discuss bills in terms of their differences only. There are basically 3-4 types of bills. First of all, let us discuss the difference between an ordinary bill and a money bill. The first difference is that an ordinary bill and a money bill is that money bill requires discharge of money from the consolidated fund of India. This is the first point, that in money bill, money is sought to be discharged from the consolidated fund of India. On the other hand, an ordinary bill may include any other topic or subject which is other than discharge of money from the consolidated fund of India. Very simple. Second is that a money bill can be introduced only in the Lok Sabha, whereas an ordinary bill can be introduced in either Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. So, it can be introduced in either House of Parliament. A money bill can be introduced only by the government. Now, what it means is it can be introduced only by a minister. No other MP can introduce it, whereas an ordinary bill can be introduced by any member of Parliament, even if he is from the ruling party or even if he is from the opposition. So, any member can introduce this bill in the Parliament. Then, since in case of money bill, the Lok Sabha enjoys primacy. In case of money bill, the Lok Sabha enjoys primacy. Let us understand this point very properly. See, when it comes to money bill, Lok Sabha has far reaching powers over Rajya Sabha. First of all, the Lok Sabha speaker gets to decide whether a bill is a money bill or not. Secondly, it can be introduced only in the Lok Sabha and not in the Rajya Sabha. Thirdly, if the Lok Sabha passes it, it goes to the Rajya Sabha, and Rajya Sabha has 14 days to pass that particular bill. But if the Rajya Sabha does not pass that bill in 14 days, even then it is deemed to be passed. That means when it comes to money bill, the Rajya Sabha has no powers. The Rajya Sabha has no powers, right? But when it comes to ordinary bill, both the houses, Lok Sabha as well as Rajya Sabha, have equal powers. This is another major difference. In ordinary bill, both the houses have equal powers, but in money bill, Lok Sabha has all the powers and Rajya Sabha is powerless. This is the another point of difference. Then, since in this particular case the Rajya Sabha is powerless, so there is no point of conducting a joint sitting. Since all the power with regard to the discharge of money or the withdrawal of money from the Consolidated Fund of India lies with the Lok Sabha only, that means there is no provision of joint sitting of Parliament if there is a deadlock over a money bill, because there cannot be a deadlock. If the Lok Sabha has passed it, it is deemed to be passed even if Rajya Sabha does not pass it. So, there is no question of a deadlock as such. But in case of an ordinary bill, since both the houses enjoy equal powers, there can be a deadlock. Say the Lok Sabha has passed it, but the Rajya Sabha is not passing it. So, in that particular case, a joint sitting of both the houses of Parliament will be called. So, in this joint sitting, then collectively both the members of both the houses of Parliament will sit, and then the voting will be held, and if the bill is passed, then it is deemed to be passed. Then two another important types of bills are finance bills type 1 and finance bill type 2. Now, we have seen two extremes of a bills. One is an ordinary bill which does not include any provision for withdrawal of money, and on the other hand there is a money bill which includes the provisions only for withdrawal of money, but there can be a bill which includes some provisions of an ordinary bill and some provisions of a money bill. Now, that bill is known as a finance bill. So, the finance bills of two types, finance bill type 1 and finance bill type 2. So, these are the two types of finance bill type 1 and finance bill type 2. Now, finance bill type 1 yes. Am I audible? If you can hear me, please comment. Okay, okay, right. Okay. So, the finance bill type 1 is considered closer to a money bill. That means it has more features pertaining to the withdrawal of money from the Consolidated Fund of India and lesser ordinary features, whereas in finance bill type 2 it is considered closer to an ordinary bill. So, all those provisions will then apply. That means if there is a bill which has both the provisions, but the provisions for withdrawal of money are more as compared to the ordinary provisions, then that bill is a finance bill type 1. However, if there are both the provisions, but the provisions that are ordinary in nature are more than the provisions which include the withdrawal of money, then that bill is a finance bill type 2, and accordingly the procedures will be followed. So, finance bill type 1 will follow the procedure of a money bill, and finance bill type 2 will follow the procedure of an ordinary bill. For example, in case of finance bill type 1, joint sitting cannot be held. In case of finance bill type 2, joint sitting can be held. So, these are the four types of bills, right. Also, then there are the types of expenditure. Types of expenditure. Now, the types of expenditure are of two types from the Consolidated Fund of India. One is the expenditure made from the Consolidated Fund of India, and another one is the expenditure charged from the Consolidated Fund of India. Let us see the difference between these two, the expenditure made from the Consolidated Fund of India and the expenditure charged from the Consolidated Fund of India. So, the expenditure made means that there is voting in Parliament. So, every year the Parliament has to pass that particular expense. For example, the money that is spent on government schemes, it has to be passed in the Parliament every year when the budget is passed. However, there are certain expenditures which do not require the vote of Parliament, and that is known as expenditure charged on the Consolidated Fund of India. So, the charged expenditure does not require vote in the Parliament. Now, what kind of expenditure is that which is so mandatory that it does not require vote every year in Parliament? It includes the salaries and allowances of all the constitutional functionaries. For example, it includes the salaries and allowances of the President of India, the Vice President of India, the members of Parliament, the Speaker of Lok Sabha, the Deputy Speaker of Lok Sabha, the Chairman of Rajya Sabha. So, all these constitutional functionaries, their salaries, their emoluments and all their legal and economic benefits and perks, they are charged on the Consolidated Fund of India. Now, this provision has been made to give them security of income, so that this provision cannot be used against them to pressurize them. For example, if this expenditure was to be voted every year, then the government could have exerted pressure on any constitutional functionary by stopping his or her salary, because it has to be voted every year in the Parliament. So, this expenditure is not voted every year and it has to be done anyway. Similarly, the judges of Supreme Court and High Court, their salaries are also charged on the Consolidated Fund of India. That means every year the Parliament does not vote on these expenses, and these expenses are automatically deemed to be done from the Consolidated Fund of India. So, this is a very important provision. Money bill is subject to challenge or not in Supreme Court. Of course, money bill is subject to challenge in the Supreme Court of India, but only once the Speaker of Lok Sabha has taken his decision on that. If the Lok Sabha Speaker has not yet decided and is yet to take a decision, then the Supreme Court cannot interfere. The Supreme Court's role starts only after the Speaker has taken a decision. Just like I gave you the example of the Aadhaar Act. So, the Aadhaar Act or Aadhaar Bill was signed in the year 2016-17, and then it was challenged that Aadhaar Bill was not a totally money bill, it was actually a finance bill. So, it included other provisions as well, and not only those provisions which require the withdrawal of money from the Consolidated Fund of India, but still it was introduced as a money bill in the Lok Sabha, and the allegation was that since the government enjoyed majority in the Lok Sabha, that is why it was introduced as a money bill in the Lok Sabha, because the government could not get it passed from the Rajya Sabha. But this contention was denied by the Supreme Court of India, and the Aadhaar Act was upheld as a money bill. So, of course, it can be challenged in the Supreme Court. Right. So, in the end, let us discuss the comparison between Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha in brief. Now that we have discussed all the provisions, there are certain important things that we can discuss. After that, our topic of Parliament will be complete. So, this is Rajya Sabha and this is Lok Sabha. There are certain aspects in which the Lok Sabha is superior to Rajya Sabha, and there are various aspects in which Rajya Sabha is superior to Lok Sabha. For example, the Rajya Sabha, let us discuss the superiority here. For example, the Lok Sabha is superior as far as the strength is concerned. So, the strength of Lok Sabha is twice that of Rajya Sabha. Similarly, when it comes to money bill, the Lok Sabha is superior, right? Yes, you are asking what about made expenditure? Expenditure made out of the consolidated fund of India is simply, it has to be voted upon every year. So, when every year the budget is voted upon in the Lok Sabha, that is nothing but the expenditure made on the consolidated fund of India. For example, the Narega, 10,000 crore have to be sanctioned for Narega. So, this is expenditure made on the consolidated fund of India, because for this you have to obtain the permission of Lok Sabha every year. So, this is expenditure made, and if you do not have to take the permission of Lok Sabha, then that is expenditure charged on the consolidated fund of India. That is the only difference. With regard to money bill also, the Lok Sabha has an upper hand, right? Then what else? Can you tell me any other point? Yes. See, in case of joint sitting of parliament, there are two scenarios. There are two situations. One is that strength wise, the Lok Sabha has an upper hand, because the Lok Sabha strength is twice. Also in the joint sitting, the Speaker of Lok Sabha has an upper hand, because the Speaker of Lok Sabha presides over the joint sitting. So, all these show the superiority of the Lok Sabha over the Rajya Sabha, even though it is the lower house. And the reason for these things, that why it has been given so much importance as far as money bill is concerned, so as to give administrative convenience to the government, because the government is in a majority, or the government is enjoying a majority in the Lok Sabha. So, the government should at least have an upper hand as far as spending money is concerned. And also it is done because it is the directly elected house. All the members of Lok Sabha are directly elected. So, that is why this privilege has been given to the Lok Sabha. However, that said, it does not mean that the Rajya Sabha does not have any power. There are certain powers which are exclusive to the Rajya Sabha. Number one, under Article 249, under Article 249, the Rajya Sabha can authorize the Parliament to make a law on a subject in the state list. So, the Rajya Sabha can authorize the Parliament to make a law in the state list in the 7th schedule of the Constitution. So, until now we have done that there are three lists. The Parliament can make a law on the union list, the state government can make a law on the state list, and on concurrent list both can make a law. However, if under Article 249 the Rajya Sabha passes a resolution and authorizes the Parliament that it can make a law on any subject in the state list, then the Parliament can do that. Now, this power has been given to Rajya Sabha, because remember, Rajya Sabha is the council of states. That means all the representatives of states are sitting in the Rajya Sabha. So, those representatives are themselves authorizing the Parliament to make a law on the subject in the state list, and that is why the Parliament is authorized to make a law on that particular subject. Similarly, under Article 312 of the Constitution, under Article 312 of the Constitution of India, which falls under Part 14, that is services under the Union and states, the Rajya Sabha can create a new All India service. So, a new All India service can be created if the Rajya Sabha passes a resolution to that effect. And what all India services are there in India? The Indian Administrative Service, the Indian Police Service, and the Indian Forest Service. These three All India services are there. But if any new All India service is to be created, since All India service includes the recruitment and conditions of service set by the center, but they serve the state governments. So, the states have an upper hand if a new All India service is to be created. So, in these two particular respects, under Article 249 and under Article 312, the Rajya Sabha has an upper hand as compared to the Lok Sabha. In the end, let us discuss three important committees of Parliament, and then our topic of Parliament shall be complete. There are three important parliamentary committees. See, Foreign Service is not an all India service. Foreign Service is a central service. The reason for that is that in states there is no foreign department. The Foreign Service is exclusive to the central government. So, it is a central service. It is not an all India service, right. So, there are committees of Parliament, and in this context there are three important committees. One is the Public Accounts Committee. Second is the Estimates Committee. And third is the Committee on Public Undertakings. So, these are the three parliamentary committees, and these are very important from your exam point of view. Let us see their composition and their function. First of all, in Public Accounts Committee, there are a total of 22 members. Out of these, 15 members are from the Lok Sabha and 7 members are from the Rajya Sabha. So, this is very important. 15 members from the Lok Sabha and 7 members from the Rajya Sabha, and they are elected by a system of proportional representation by means of a single transferable vote. What is very interesting is that the chairman of Public Accounts Committee is generally from the opposition. Now, what is the task of Public Accounts Committee? As the name suggests, it audits the accounts of the government. Generally, that is done by the Controller and Auditor General of India, but when the Controller and Auditor General of India submits its report to the Parliament, if there is some flaw in the report, that is also taken up by the Public Accounts Committee, and it can be done only if the member of opposition chairs this meeting, because if the CAG finds out that there is any irregularity in government spending and that report is then again submitted to the government itself, the government may not reveal that report. So, it has to be submitted to a committee which is headed by a member of opposition. So, Public Accounts Committee is very important in that context. Its main function is to examine the CAG report. So, to examine the CAG report is the most important task of the Public Accounts Committee, and this is a very significant committee to maintain transparency and accountability of the government of India. The next is the Estimates Committee. So, the Estimates Committee has total 30 members and all of them are from the Lok Sabha. It has 30 members and all those members are from the Lok Sabha. They are elected by the Lok Sabha by proportional representation by means of single transferable vote. And in this also all the parties are represented. It is not that the 30 members will only be from the ruling party, the members can also be from the opposition party. Right. So, the members are also from the opposition party, and in total 30 members are there in the Estimates Committee. All parties get due representation in this particular committee. Now, the function of this committee is, as the name suggests, it is an Estimates Committee. So, it makes the estimates of various expenditures of the government. The government presents various expenditures and the estimates of those expenditures, but this committee verifies whether the estimates are exaggerated or not. So, this is very important. This Estimates Committee examines, say for example, if the government says that 10,000 crore rupees are required for Narega scheme in a particular year, this committee will certify whether this estimate is accurate or not. So, this is a very important function of this particular committee. The third committee is Committee on Public Undertakings, which has a total of 22 members. Again, 15 members are from the Lok Sabha and 7 members are from the Rajya Sabha. So, this committee also is elected by the system of proportional representation by a single transferable vote. Now, what are public undertakings? Public undertakings means all the public sector undertakings that have at least 51% of government ownership. So, all the accounts and all the proceedings of this particular public undertakings are to be taken up by this particular committee, and its main function is to examine the reports and accounts of public sector undertakings. An example of public sector undertakings include the Oil and Natural Gas Corporation, the Life Insurance Corporation, or the Bharat Petroleum. So, there are various examples of public sector undertakings. There are more than 300 public sector undertakings, and are their accounts, their audits, and all their financial statements are examined by the Committee on Public Undertakings. So, if you have any doubt about whatever we have discussed, you can ask me in the comment section. So, this in brief was a topic of Parliament of India. We basically discussed the 3 components of Parliament: the President of India, the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. We discussed their composition. We discussed the main provisions of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. We discussed the presiding officers ranging from chairman to speaker and deputy speaker, and then there are various devices of parliamentary control that includes various types of motions, various types of resolutions including 0 hour, and finally these 3 committees: the Public Accounts Committee, the Estimates Committee and the Committee on Public Undertakings. So, if you like the session, kindly comment in the comment section. Tomorrow we will continue with the state legislature, state executive and state judiciary, and since we have covered the union judiciary, union executive and union legislature, it will be very easy for you to draw a parallel, because basically the office of governor is totally parallel to the office of president and vice versa. So, we will be discussing the state tomorrow. So, thank you everyone. This has been a session on the Parliament of India.